Good morning. My name is Joe Reynolds, and I'll be discussing the Voorhees Music Department rehearsal process pre-COVID-19, during COVID-19, and hopefully what it will look like during post-COVID-19. So a traditional instrumental music rehearsal, I have included a little picture of a saxophone there for you, in case you weren't aware. In a high school, music instrumental rehearsals occur in something called concert band. Concert band can have many different names: a wind ensemble, symphonic band, wind ensemble, wind orchestra, wind symphony. But these names are all really used interchangeably. They all basically mean the same thing. Make myself a little smaller here. Here we go. Stay out of the way. So concert band is how I'm going to refer to them, are made up of instruments. The instrumentation is woodwinds, brass, and percussion instruments. The concert band's repertoire includes coming to you live from the band room. The concert band's repertoire includes original wind compositions, transcriptions or arrangements of orchestral compositions, light music, and other popular tunes. Though the instrumentation is similar, a concert band is distinguished from a marching band in that its primary function is as a concert ensemble. Standard repertoire for a concert band does, however, contain a concert band. I just threw a couple little instruments in there for us. So here's how the concert band rehearsal routine generally works. The students enter the room, they get their instruments out, they get their music, they go to their seats, they warm up, and they kind of get settled for the group portion of the activity, of rehearsal. The teacher would then address any sort of individual issues, and then we're going to get started. So the full rehearsal would start. You would do some group warm-ups, some tuning exercises, some intonation exercises, rhythm lessons or exercises, and then little melodic exercises as it usually relates to the repertoire. Just threw a picture of what rhythm looks like in a tuner. So again, you're going to transition to the musical repertoire part of the rehearsal. And then you think about it, the season or the theme of the concert is what's really going to influence what the ensemble would be rehearsing. Generally, here at Voorhees, we would put together a concert consisting of 4 or 5 pieces of music that are somehow connected or at least will work with a general theme. Our rehearsals are generally 40 to 60 minutes in length, and we try to break it up into smaller chunks so that students don't get overwhelmed or bogged down with one specific skill for too long. So with the concert, a high school concert consists of pieces, as I said, are all kind of connected. Some of the ensembles have traditions that include performing a specific piece. Some will perform the national anthem before all of their concerts. Some will play the alma mater at a sporting event. Here at Voorhees, one of our traditions is to play Sleigh Ride at our winter concert. As you can see, here's a picture of myself wearing a Santa hat. I'll just play a little snippet for you. Oops. Here we go. So Sleigh Ride at our concert is one of our traditions. You can see that I came out wearing a hat, and the students pulled their hat out as soon as I began to conduct the piece. We get a wild applause from the audience every year. They know it's coming, but they love it. And I feel like they would be very upset if we did not include that tradition. Oops. Then the world turned upside down. COVID-19, ruiner of everything. Educators around the world and country began to scramble on how they were going to put their ensembles together so they could still perform. While some content areas could successfully massage a technological way of doing the same thing as normal, musicians absolutely cannot. They had to innovate past practice and innovate new ways to help their students learn in this virtual world. I mean, how are we going to play Sleigh Ride if we can't come together? The question was the question music educators across the world have, how do we play with our groups in a remote setting? Then the question evolved to how do I play with my ensembles in a hybrid setting? Entire ensembles were not present at the same time, even in the best case of scenario. Health regulations regarding aerosols and lack of ventilation and social distancing rules prevented most groups from playing as a group in person for over a year. We all know this. Masks over your instruments, singers and dancers, the teachers, 6 foot distance. Time for next period to start. Is this really the best we can do? I took a little picture of a Zoom screen, which we've all have lived in for so long. There really was no good alternative. Video conferencing platforms such as Zoom or Google Meet were useful to bring students together, but it was impossible to perform together due to the internet lag. The latency. Lag is latency between computers, which causes a timing delay that could not be overcome by meeting attendees. For example, if I had all of us clap at the same time, it would sound like a ripple effect because of the various internet speeds at our homes, specific bandwidth issues that you have at your homes, and then that brings us into the issue of equity for all students. Some students didn't have internet at all at their houses. So how do we get them to be involved? Another thing that was missing during this COVID instruction period was the sense of community. More than ever, students were missing the community aspect that the ensemble experience provides. The ability to collaborate and perform with your friends is something that cannot occur in other academic areas. So the question became, how do we engage our students virtually and still be effective ensemble teachers? Here are the strategies that I found and discussed with several music teachers across the state. One was called Mute and Play, another computer-assisted performance, and the other became an aspect where people were focusing on virtual performance. For the Mute and Play aspect, teachers led full ensemble rehearsals via a video conferencing platform, such as Zoom, but all the students were muted. Teachers began with a traditional warm-up and moved into rehearsal. Students were able to play along to a recording shared by the teacher, but they could never hear their classmates. So they were really just playing their instrument at home by themselves. So several important things occur during the mute and play type of virtual rehearsal. As the director, you can address musical aspects with the entire ensemble at once, rather than having 50 individual meetings. Huge time saver. Downside is you don't necessarily know if every student understood what you said. You can just discuss specific performance aspects, go over logistics. Again, just as if you were in class and you were speaking to your student. It's very student-centered. And unfortunately, that was just one of the characteristics of the mute and play. You can address the various specific performer expectations and needs, but it does take a long time. If everyone has a question, they have to unmute. You have to call on people one person at a time. You can run into issues with the chat. Students will ask a question in the chat, and then you don't necessarily see it. And then if you're sharing your screen and a student asks a question of a personal nature, and you happen to be projecting, you could be sharing, sensitive content, and that would be very upsetting for the student as well as, for you potentially. It does seem like a more normal ensemble rehearsal, except that as the teacher, you're just talking to the Zoom, you're conducting to a track. You don't hear everyone playing at the same time, and it is more challenging to fix individual aspects. Using this technique does require you to set some expectations regarding active participation from students and active checking in on students during your exercises. Thankfully for myself, I co-teach band with another director, so one of us was able to work the Zoom and the other one was able to do the rehearsing. So the one who was not rehearsing was able to check in with students, talk to them specifically in breakout rooms, have individual chat conversations to clear things up. That was very helpful. If we were by ourselves, that would have been very challenging. Playing warm-ups, sight reading through music could be done in this format as long as you have a backing track to coordinate this. For warm-ups, you could have a student also create their backing track using a program like BandLab or GarageBand or Soundtrap. However, I've discovered that most of the backing tracks that band directors and choir directors were using were made by the teacher rather than the student. Here's additional downside. Students do not receive immediate or timely feedback for the individual practice. It takes an extreme amount of time to listen and give students the feedback that they need. It's very time prohibitive. However, it does resemble a traditional rehearsal. The next strategy was computer-assisted performance instruction. Two of the leading programs that were used were called Smart Music and Practice First. Computer-assisted instruction for computer-assisted performance instruction. As the pandemic hit, these web-based platforms provided free access to schools across the country, along with other companies that have since monetized. When the pandemic hit, they really did reach out and were very good to schools in helping kids through this kids and educators through a very trying time. Voorhees, however, was already using Smart Music as a practice tool for our students, so we were lucky to have that. But we did request the demo of Practice First through its parent company called Music First, which is actually based out of New York City. Smart Music has been a staple for teachers to help students develop performance skills remotely. There's over 25,000 songs in its virtual library. It's available on many platforms and operating systems. Students were able to access it on their phones, iPads, Macs at home, Chromebooks, which is very helpful. Students do get immediate feedback on whether they played the notes or rhythms correctly. They would receive a score, and they're able to hear and listen back to their recording. Those recordings are also immediately shared back with the teacher, so the teacher can listen to them all and provide feedback. There's practice tools such as metronomes, tuners, ability to loop specific sections to practice. Those are always built in, so that's very helpful in Smart Music. Practice First, as I said, was part of the Music First Classroom suite. This is from their website. Is a comprehensive learning management system for K-12 music education. This learning management system works seamlessly with powerful integrated software that helps you monitor your students' progress and make lesson plans and create assignments. It works with things like Google Classroom on a variety of operating systems as well, but it is more of a learning management system as opposed to Smart Music, which is kind of a standalone at this moment. It is evolving for the future, though. Each subscription to Music First included an expansive library of lessons for the teachers and assessments, various content, lessons for complete courses ranging from music history to electronic music to guitar to ensembles. It also included digital subscriptions to Intune Monthly Magazine, which is something for students. It's written to a level that's appropriate. There's articles that are always very timely to additional softwares included Focus on Sound and O Generator, which was an electronic music program. Through Music First, I discovered the program called Soundtrap for Education. They were also offering free trials. Soundtrap is a virtual digital audio workstation. Once logged into the program, there are lesson plans, plan ideas for a variety of content areas. Software can be used to create presentations, podcasts, or create musical compositions. It occurs behind a walled garden, so it is safe for students to collaborate with their classmates and teachers. If you're not within the walled garden, you are not able to join. So you're not going to risk students communicating with people that are outside of the school, sharing information, sensitive information. So some of the virtual ensemble or virtual performance tools that we used and exist are Soundtrap, Google Soundtrap, which we used for the recording of audio. Google Classroom we used for submitting videos as well as additional audio. And then we used the Final Cut Pro software on Macs. The task of putting together a virtual ensemble video is a logistical and technological nightmare. Music educators learned this very quickly in the spring of 2020, and then again throughout the 2021 school year. There are a few companies out there that do help you put them together, and they will secure the copyright permissions for you. You see that there's a fee. This first one is called Choir Creator. It appears that it's only available in the App Store, or it is available in the App Store, so it's probably an Apple only. And then this one, kind of a silly name, the Cyborg Llama. The creativity in the videos is very generic, but it will put them together fairly quickly. And it has worked for many groups. Many educators decided to create these videos alone with varying degrees of success. We did it here on our own. Luckily, we had been beginning to transition to Apple products prior to the pandemic. So we were able to use professional tools used for video editing, mainly the Final Cut Pro software. As I said, we use Soundtrap for our audio. We found that the equivalent software for Windows, Adobe Premiere, was not user-friendly. In fact, it was a headache. The Max kind of goes back to this picture. I wanted to do that every time I used it. So here are some ups and downs of the virtual ensemble. The main thing that music educators have to stress to their administrator is that a virtual performance does not replace, it cannot supplant actual performance ensembles. The individual players are still playing by themselves at home rather than working as an ensemble, building those sort of group skills. The majority of the ensemble skills generally taught and practiced on a daily basis are added into these virtual ensemble tracks during the labor-intensive post-production work, and that's done by generally by the teachers. That's not work that's done by students. Virtual ensembles can be a great showcase or promotional tool for ensemble, but again, they are not the same. You do not get the same experience, same emotional feeling when you share your virtual ensemble versus going up on the stage and performing for people. Recording skills that you do learn and you do polish in making your virtual ensemble audio recordings and your video recordings are good, and they can be used for self-assessment. But until the software and the hardware improve, it's impossible to synchronously perform with musicians from around the world. It just can't happen yet. And I've spoken with some people in the sound design world, and they basically say that that's going to be next to impossible because we would need sound to travel faster than the speed of sound through through the internet, and that currently is not possible. We've all seen this. We've all seen a virtual ensemble video, I would imagine. So here at Voorhees, we did many videos. So we created, for our Winter Pops concert, which we do every year, we created one of them was called Superstition, Stevie Wonder. So the way we set it up, let's go to here we go. So we have our Superstition track. Every student received this, which gives them a click track. And then they play along to this. So everyone gets that. After they've successfully recorded, here's an example one of my students created for us. And then if you have a bunch of students that are virtual, you can eventually take all of these various tracks. I should also add that I have 54 members of my ensemble. I had an individual file for each student that looks similar to this one, When I exported them, they looked like this, and then I could put them together and we could hear You can hear that when you have some of the virtual students, it does make it challenging to make things line up and sync. You zoom in on these files, you can see where sound waves are not exactly perfect. And when they become not exactly perfect, they will sound more and more apart. So that was how many files I had. Looks like this. Then I took the virtual students, made them all become one file. There's editing and mixing that goes into this. Adjusting volumes, shifting left and right so everything lines up. You're adding slight digital effects to things. Eventually, you get them all together, and I condensed and combined files. And then eventually, the next step is to put it into a video. And now I have it open for us. Here's just a small segment of our Pops concert, which our theme was the 1970s. For a bit, you get the idea. You know, we had some superstitions, and you see the only times we have people without their masks on is when they're playing, or if they were at home. We had our percussionists playing from home. Slideshow from current slide. And so, you know, we did that 14 more times, followed that same process with the sound trap, people submitting videos, people submitting audio, 32-minute concert comprised of 174 still pictures, more than 310 minutes of video footage, 219 video files, 480 minutes of audio, 226 separate tracks, 9 weeks of work, 2 directors, 70 students, 3 ensembles. And I think that that was probably an underestimate of the amount of time. Well, actually, that was the amount of time was submitted. Just as much time was spent by myself and the other director to put this together. edit and piece things together. It took hours and hours. So where do we go from now? Go now. As we begin to transition back into the classroom with live performance and practice, an international coalition worked to determine the impact of aerosols while playing and singing. And they collaborated with the CDC. See, here's a picture of the Army band performing. They've got microphones, they've got plexiglass dividers. They each seem to have a monitor. So plexiglass barriers were initially recommended, as well as limited percentage of people in the room, as well as people, depending on the size and space of your room. The Army has a little bit bigger budget than most public schools. Here's a little picture of the aerosol study. If you see, this is a flute player, just where her air is going while she's playing. It's going all over the place. So one of the things that was recommended were bell covers. So you have a tuba player down there with one. We have a oboe and a clarinet one, as well as a trumpet one. Face shields, as well as playing masks, were used. People got inventive. The study kind of indicated that playing you should be restricted to 30 minutes and allow for air exchange. 60 minutes outside with some breaks. This was new in March. See a picture of a group practicing outside, all in masks, playing masks. This group here is on their stage, spaced out on the stage, so they're using whatever space you could find within your building. One of the things that was also recommended was practicing some better hygiene. This is a little sock that was put on the trumpet to collect the spit valve or the spit catcher. People monetized, found ways to be successful, so they didn't want spit valves being emptied on the ground. You know, one of the things that's another positive is that we're finding that more and more people need to wash their hands. So that's something that brought to our attention, and people are doing much more with the hand washing. Washes not just the coronavirus, just daily germs off. You look at the picture up here, the ventilation. The red dots would be the COVID virus. If you got your windows open and a fan, it's going to suck it out. It's going to go outside, but if you let it get sucked into the air ventilation system, it comes back out. It doesn't have the virus if you have the proper filters in your HVAC systems. Schools across the country were scrambling to get the filters needed to make this successful. So here are some things we need to consider for the future. The ability to collaborate and receive feedback from software is helpful for students and performers. The ability to collaborate across the country, the ability to receive immediate feedback telling you you played it right, you played it wrong, and this is what you need to do better. The artificial intelligence, the AI, is getting better and better. Technology to collaborate with other musicians from around the world is going to continue to improve, which will make for more meaningful rehearsals and performances in this style. In the future also, the choice to create or participate in virtual ensembles will now be an option, but will hopefully no longer be a necessity for our survival as music educators. Live streaming technology is advancing every day, and it will allow for our performances to be shared to a wider audience. Online ticketing platforms are allowing for monetization, so you still can have your performances and make money for scholarships or fund various programs. Also, with the live streaming, virtual field trips and masterclass opportunities has also expanded, and interaction with people across the country. That's a wonderful thing. So while the future is unknown, the technological gains from this period will have a positive impact on music education moving forward. I'm sure of that. Here's some of my sources. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Have a great day.